Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Kisser, registered therapeutic counselor and ADHD coach, bringing you knowledge and education, helping the world understand about ADHD, everything that comes along with it, and the people that impacts. I have back today Andy Jones. We had an amazing session. He brought so much forth to share with his past, with relationships, the struggles that he's had, all the beautiful children that he's had, that former partners have withheld from him. He's had to go through the struggle of courts just to see his children, and even when he could see them, still, being his kids being brainwashed against him. And just he's brought all of this valuable information together. A man with a pure loving heart that just wants to help, just wants to serve, knows what men are struggling with and how challenging it is for them to speak up, to be vulnerable, to fight for their rights, to see their kids, that they are being wrongly accused in the courts and other things, that and there needs to be that support. And Andy, that's what you've done with your business, with your coaching business. You're coaching men that have they're going through these things, and you help them through that process because you've been there. Andy, would you like to share a bit more about your coaching and how you're helping out?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me back, Elizabeth. I really appreciate it. I think we had a really good first session. And so I'm really privileged to come back with you and do a round two, if you like. So I have been for the last couple of years, but certainly over the last year more seriously, supporting men going through similar things to myself, and that is going through breakup, divorce, particularly dads. I'm really targeted towards dads. And in the UK, I'm helping dads with their legal paperwork and the legal system as well. Obviously, that's very specific to the UK because every country's got different laws. But in terms of being able to support men, obviously I can support men all over the world, and so particularly targeting towards dads because the struggles that dads face when they're separating is an added complication, an added layer of difficulty to just a normal, straightforward breakup. Right. When there aren't children involved, you can just go your own separate ways, and you can not see each other again, and that's it. Job's over, game's over, job's done, and that's really nice and simple, clean. It's easy to do, I know. And when you have children involved, you then have an ongoing commitment to be obviously in the children's lives, and an ongoing commitment to some extent in your ex-wife, ex-partner's life, the mother of your children's lives. And we have to find ways to be able to communicate with the ex-partner until your child's at least 16, until the child can make their own decisions and do their own things. And particularly for starting off with 2, 3, 4-year-olds, that's a very, very daunting thing to look down the line for 10, 12, 14 years, and over 16 years if your child's a baby. And how on earth am I going to do this? How am I going to get through the breakup? How am I going to see my kid? How am I going to survive the immediate situation, which is also the biggest challenge, always in the trauma right at the beginning, because there's so much going on and there's so many different emotions happening.
Yes.
And then, as we mentioned in the previous episode, that there is further complication then of false allegations against men, which is unfortunately very, very common. And I'm not making excuses for those men that do go out and abuse women. There's no, I'm not having any tolerance for that at all. And similarly, I have no tolerance for women that abuse men. And that's where my, supporting line is as a man that has been abused by my ex-wife. And to try and reach out to other men that have gone through it, going through it, that maybe don't know. Because I think one of the things that is quite common, certainly in my case, is that when you're in the middle of an abusive relationship, you don't actually know you're in an abusive relationship, and it sounds very strange thing to say.
No, but you know what? That makes a lot of sense, because depending on what a person has been grown up with, maybe they don't know what a healthy relationship looks like, or what, abuse looks like. Can you share some of the ways that it shows up?
Well, yeah, what's really interesting is that no, or very few, relationships start off abusive.
Mhm.
It tends to be something that creeps in, it drips down bit by bit over time. And so quite often, at the start of a relationship, you're in love with each other, you've got these golden days going on, you've got all the excitement, you've got all the emotions that are going on, and you're courting each other, you're wooing each other in, you're trying to get to know each other better, and it's all very exciting. You're on the phone all times of day and night, you're on the internet constantly, you're trying to meet up constantly, and that's kind of the obsession of your life. At that point, that's a very normal kind of new relationship, early relationship kind of thing to happen. And then you get together and you move in together. Now, generally speaking, the way things go, you tend to move in together after a period of time, and then you start thinking about your future life together and what you're going to do, whether you're going to have children, whether you're going to get married, what you're going to create together. And in the early stage of a relationship, it's very creative, it's very generative, that you have so much energy coming from this new thing you've created by two people coming together. There's a lot of energy there, there's a lot of newness, there's a lot of creation, not just in terms of babies, but in terms of new businesses, new jobs, a third thing is created out of two people coming together.
Right.
At least it should be. It should never be two broken halves coming together to make one whole. It should always be two wholes coming together to make a third thing. That's really important.
Yeah. And of
To
course it
answer your
can start
question,
off
sorry, go
looking
on.
like fireworks, right? It's like
Say that again,
everything's
sorry, I missed that.
grand, everything's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and that then can blind us to some of the less good things, and quite often does blind us to some of the less good things. And so we don't look, we don't notice, we don't see, and we're not aware. So in the early days of a relationship that was becoming abusive, what you might find is some of your values that you have and you've held for years are being undermined or replaced. You may find, say, if you're vegetarian, that there's meat being put into the fridge, or that you're being fed meat secretly, or you may find, and that's quite a big one actually, but that you may find that there's little lies that come in. There's little things that are little lies and little secrets that come in that they're not a lot. They're little white lies about.
Just tiny ones.
The tiny ones that I think that I didn't leave that cup on the side. Even though you did leave that cup on the side, and I saw you leave that cup on the side. You're saying you didn't leave it on the side. Which then it's gaslighting her effectively, but you obviously don't know that at the time. But little pointless lies that begin to corrode the relationship, but you don't know it at the time, because
just the little bits and pieces.
It is. And an abusive relationship is built up of lots of incremental wrongs going on.
Yeah.
But because it's over a period of time, just little bits here, little bits there, you don't notice it happening. It's not like someone getting a brick and lobbing it through your window, and you see that whole smashed window. There's a little bit of push there, and a little bit of push there, and a little bit of push there, and a little bit of pressure, and a little bit of pressure, and a little bit of pressure. And at some point that window will break because of all the pressure on the different points of it. And that's what it's like on a human being in terms of relationship. When you're being undermined, when you're being devalued, when you're being lied to, whether you're being tricked and conned into things that you don't know you are. These things happen over a period of time. They're quite slow, and you don't notice it because it's slow. It's a bit I say about the boiling frog syndrome. That you don't.
Yes.
The frog will stay in the boiling water if it's gone from cold to being hot. It's actually not true, but that's the analogy that I would use with it.
Yeah, it starts off at regular temperature and just up by a percentage of a degree, and they get accustomed to it, and then they don't once it's so hot that it'll kill them, they don't realize it. But if they jump right in when it's hot, it's like, oh, this is bad, I'm out of here. And
that's exactly what it is. It's totally that, because if you start your relationship, all these things are happening at the start. You're out the door straight away. You don't stay around.
Exactly.
And
Yeah, there's that testing period, where the person that's on the giving end, they'll start it off with you're kind of joking around sort of things, just oh yeah, that's funny, kind of a little smack on the shoulder, hard elbow kind of thing, horsing around her shoulder thump, or it's like, oh yeah, 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 you're such an idiot not seeing that, just laughing about, but not
yeah,
realizing it's like, wait a minute, there's unwanted physical contact or unphysical wanted words, coming in there. And they can be so soft and subtle with it, that I know myself, I didn't realize I was being physically abused after I had had a fractured vertebrae. And all of a sudden, my husband that had been driving for 40 years, all of a sudden he doesn't know how to drive. Every right hand turn he makes, the back corner is going over a curb. Like, don't tell me that's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't know where that came from, and suddenly all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't see that speed bump, or oh, something just ran out in front of traffic. It's like, yeah. And then the moment I called him on it, it stopped. And then the moment I called him on it, it stopped. And that's how it comes in. Yeah, the really soft, subtle things. It's like they're testing the waters. They're testing, okay, I got away with this. I got away with this. Okay, now let's try this. Until the point they're called out. And it's like, oh, okay, I can't get away with that anymore. Yeah. And so that's something
well, that's what's really interesting about the point being called out as well. And I think what you
yeah.
said about that, about your vertebrae and stuff, it's really powerful, because that is a really good physical example of someone knowing your vulnerability and exploiting it to deliberately cause you problems.
Yeah.
Which is malevolent, and that's a really very unpleasant thing.
Yeah.
And when those things are with words and micro actions and denials, uh, and and just changing the rules constantly, for example, shifting the rug under your feet and just shifting the ground, and sometimes if you're making threats to leave but not leaving.
Yeah. The
And
playing with the
in
mind
my
games.
case,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's a really insidious one, because that makes you want to pull them closer, tighter,
Right.
and at the same time, it's like actually a really controlling action. So if you don't do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to leave you.
Right.
I know that is not an okay way to carry on.
No, it's not.
But
I would love to see the expression on someone's face if they said, well, you know what, if you don't do this, and this, I'm out of here. And just for their partner to look around and say, okay, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Do you
yeah,
think they're gonna change or keep doing the same thing when it's looks like they see, oh, that game is not gonna work. Yeah. Yeah.
no, and the interesting thing, that's a threat I had leveled against me numerous times. That
Mhm.
we had children together quite quickly in relationship, which I also later found out was part of the trap. And this is particularly when you get into things like narcissism and NPD and stuff, but
Yeah,
the
that
love
hook.
bombing is a part of that, and learning then how to trap you into a relationship. Particularly like me, if you're a family man and you're already a proven family man, you've already got children,
Mhm.
and so you've got a vulnerability by the fact you have children, and then you have a blended family, and then you have the stepmother undermining the children's, and in my case, this is undermining the children's well-being, older children's well-being. But then you've got two families that are together, and you're trying
Right.
to, navigate. You can't just walk out the door then,
Yeah.
because one of the
Sounds like,
children, at least one of the children, is with the new partner, with your partner,
yeah. Yeah,
and
very
so
tangled web.
it changes the game entirely. Yeah, absolutely. When you've got children involved,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I
these are
think.
some of the things that you help your clients navigate and go through. What are some of the other things that you've helped them with?
Well, yeah, in the UK, I help them with the legal process as well.
Mhm.
Um, that is a daunting minefield as well. I self-represented in court. I didn't use a lawyer at all, and so it saves me tens of thousands of pounds.
Mhm.
But put all responsibility onto myself then to deliver what needs to be delivered, which is a very strenuous, time-consuming, stressful, emotional, difficult thing to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And I made plenty of mistakes along the way of this, but now I've kind of learn from mistakes and can able them to help other, guide other men through that field in the UK. And outside of the legal network, we give support in helping people to survive, first of all, to get through the initial shock, the initial trauma. A gentleman I was talking to back at the beginning of the year, and I was giving him support for free because he couldn't afford to pay, and I limited that because I couldn't afford to do that indefinitely myself. There's only so much time you can give away for free. But he rang me one day saying he stood on the side of a bridge, and that his marriage had broken down, that his wife was after the house, and he didn't know what to do and how to survive. His children had left home; they were bigger, they're older children. They left home, and he couldn't see a reason of living. And then he hung up on me, and then I was like, "Oh, what do I do now?" And so I tried to call him back, and he didn't answer. I tried to message him, he didn't answer. And in the end, I messaged him and said, "Look, if you don't get back in touch with me, I'm calling the police now. I'm going to give them your phone number, and I'm going to tell them to find you because you need help."
Yeah.
And he didn't get back immediately, and I was on the phone to the police. And then he got back and messaged me, and kind of, he talked himself down from his position, and he's still alive now. And that was a very extreme example. Now, I was my first experience of that kind of direct extremeness, if you like.
Right.
But they're the kind of really charged emotions that we're kind of dealing with initially, and then we're going to help people looking at how to move forward, how to move beyond that crushing pain, and how to liberate their lives. And that comes through quite often. People know the man left in the house, or the woman left in the house. The man's time left in the house, and the woman's gone off somewhere else, but all her stuff's around, and the house is still their house, her house. And one thing I say to people, you need to make your space yours. You need to claim the space,
Right?
And you need to move her stuff and her things into a space so she can collect them at some point, and redecorate, get some new furniture, move. If you can't afford to do that, move your furniture around, put some new pictures up, do things that are cheap and simple.
Yeah. Make it theirs, their own, their new place. Yeah. And that's very powerful. And I don't think people realize just how devastating this is to someone, that this battle that they're going through. And uh, I'm grateful, and I'm sure that that person that you helped is very grateful that you had the sense and the knowledge to just keep at it, and say, look, if you don't get back to me, I'm calling the police right away. And that saved him. And by doing that, you did more than saving him. You saved his children and future grandchildren. Because that's a terrible thing for a child to grow up with, knowing it's like, my dad completed suicide, and they tend to take that on themselves, thinking they could have prevented that, and their loved ones around taking on. It's like, how come I didn't know? I should have seen it. And they take that on, and that own burden on. So yeah, that's a really powerful thing. People need to know that.
That's very true. And I don't have some personal experience of that. Now, my own dad attempted suicide on a number of occasions when I was younger, when I was still a child. And I think my cries for help, and he didn't die of that in the end, unfortunately. But so I have got some experience of that as well, of what it feels like as a child going through that situation. And wouldn't wish that on any child. And I've had some friends where the dads have completed that action, and that is very, very destructive, like you said. So it's really about trying to find a space to help bring men down, first of all, from that point of desperation, from the metaphorical cliff edge, and then empowering them to rebuild. And so we talked about already the claiming the space that they're in, and remaking their house into their own model. And the second one would be changing your routines, changing your habits. Really, really important. Really important.
That is very important.
They're just two examples of those things that we can do to help work people up into a better space and into a future that is brighter.
Yeah, yeah, and I can see where this beautiful gift that you bring to the table, you're really helping struggling men with having a brighter future. And just because for all the layers that come with ADHD, there's unfortunately over 70% of adults that have ADHD aren't even aware of it. So even by listening to what you're sharing, this might, turn a light on for someone to say, oh my gosh, this is what I've been struggling with. And then on top of them going through their scenario, they're saying, there's someone that understands me. There's someone that's been through my path, and there's someone that can help me. And that's wonderful, Andy. That's you, that you're bringing this coaching service to the table to really bring salvation and hope to men going through this struggle, that are going through these breakups, and they don't have access to their kids. And even if they do have access, there's still all those emotions that are going on around. And the thing that I just find so powerful here, especially with the connection of the kids, is how you realize that a man's role in their child's life it's paramount. It's so important that the father staying involved with their child's life is going to make or break their future. And you're going forward, making the futures for your children and helping make the futures for other children. You're paving the road for better generations. I thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andy, for what you're contributing to the world, what you're contributing to men and to their children. And even through all of this, maybe relationships can be healed. I thank you so much, Andy, for being my guest and coming on for part 2. You know what? I know there's so much more, so maybe down the road we can do a part 3. You are just a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much, Andy, for joining me again today. And folks, Andy's contact information will be in the write-up, so please reach out to him if you are struggling with all of these things, because that's what he's there for. He's there to help you with your life. And any last words you want to share?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show and to be able to contribute, and I really appreciate coming back for round 2. So thank you very much. And
yeah, thank you.
Round 3 of the class maybe one day. So
yeah. And it's been such a blessing to have you on and learn from you. Just thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Be blessed. Have a fabulous day. And you know what? If you're struggling with any of these things, reach out to someone. That's what we're here for. Take care. Be blessed. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.